Hola and welcome to a new episode of the Ruthless Dog and Pony Show. My name is Julio Panicello. I am the Dream Alchemist at Ruthless Painters, a free-range art school, atelier and gallery for present-day romantics. It's been a while. It's been almost 3 weeks because we went to paint the David sculpture at Forest Lawn. So that's the reason why we didn't have this episode last week, but we're excited. We're excited to be here, and we're just gonna go through the introduction and tell you what this is about and what we're gonna do. We're gonna take less than 30 minutes. We have some exciting announcements, but anyhow, so. With every episode, we reveal the theme of our next painting collection, so you can find out what we will be painting next, and also the reason why. We explain the painting theme, where the painting theme comes from, and how it relates to our contemporary time. We explore different possibilities for visual representation of the concept using images of paintings throughout art history as inspiration, while citing stylistic and historical references. In many ways, our episodes are like our paintings, messy, unpredictable, and unvarnished, and they unfold as they go. So please, if there is any technical difficulty, stick with us, because sometimes it happens. You can find all episodes as video on Instagram, or also our YouTube channel. We also have a bunch of them as podcasts, and you can find them on any podcast platform. You just have to type the Ruthless Dog and Pony Show in whichever platform you use to listen to podcasts, and you'll find a lot of the episodes. They're great if you are driving, they're great if you are hiking, and also if you intend to fall asleep, they probably will do wonders to put you in REM mode. But you're welcome to contact us with any questions or comments about this episode, and to also contribute your notes to the presentation. We humbly stand to be corrected sometimes when we research. We do a little bit of research about a theme. We're not very thorough, and then we just kind of like stitch together different things that we find online. So if you notice or you find out that there's anything that you want to add to the presentation, please reach out to us. So we're going to take 2 weeks to work on this painting collection, and also this is an open call for anyone who would like to join. We present different opportunities to create the paintings throughout the next 2 weeks, but at the same time, if you prefer to work on your own and you don't have time to join our wonderful shared collective studio time and webinars and in-person opportunities to create work for this series, you can just do it also on your own, and then send us your piece. So without further ado, we're just going to mention how excited we are that we are finally in the spring. We went through the equinox this past Sunday. We can feel it not only because the days are much longer, but especially because the cycles of nature are presenting us with a new visual excitement. So as painters that sometimes, or most of the time, we like to work outdoors, we are very keen on observing what changes happen around us. And when plants or trees bloom, we find that that's a perfect way to count time. So instead of using weeks or months or seasons, we use seasons, but we like to use blooming times. And we've done a few sessions or a few collections that coincided with the blooming time of different trees or plants. And we don't do it every time because we are very scattered, and we try to be in tune with nature, but at the same time reflect or react to any contemporary events that happen around us. We've done bougainvilleas, we've done tomato plants with flowers and fruits. But we were driving around LA, and especially around a very iconic building, the CBS building in Los Angeles. It's not a particularly interesting building architecturally, but it's very iconic. Television City. So I think it's regarded as a historical building. Anyhow, on the fence around the site of Fairfax, there are a lot of wisteria plants, and they're blooming right now. So we got the memo. It's wisteria season, and those plants are blooming for a very limited period of time. Unlike the bougainvillea, which is usually always green, and it blooms like maybe twice a year, the wisteria, it's a plant that gives us only one chance to appreciate its beauty. The blooming season starts right now, or we are in early blooming wisteria season, or wisteria blooming season rather, and it's going to go on for a few weeks. Depending on the plant, the flowers will remain just a few weeks, and then it will be gone. So we thought it would be a great idea to bring some examples of wisteria flowers in paintings, and take the opportunity to be surrounded or drive by or walk by wisteria plants that are now completely or they're beginning to bloom. We have a couple of propositions. As usual, when we propose a theme, it seems like there is some sort of kismet that brings us opportunities to connect with things that happen around us. So there's a wisteria festival that happens in Sierra Madre. Sierra Madre, it's a little tiny town that's not far from LA, maybe like 30 minutes. And it's famous because it contains the largest blooming plant in the entire world. And they're very proud of that record, which happens to be a wisteria tree or wisteria plant. Wisterias are not trees, they're vines. So the plant was planted in 1824, I believe, and the owners didn't think that was going to grow into a monster plant, but it did. It caused so much damage to the house that they finally took the house down and rebuilt it a little bit further away. But every year on a Sunday in March, towards the end of March, the whole town celebrates the Wisteria Festival, and they spell it with an A, Wisteria Festival. And we're not sure exactly what's the difference in the etymology, but they must have a very strong reason for that. So it's going to be a little too short of a notice to go paint at the oldest blooming plant in the world, the wisteria tree in Sierra Madre. But we encourage you to, if you have the opportunity and you have time, we encourage you to go and visit this incredible botanical wonder. It's considered one of the 7 botanical wonders of the world, and we just have it like right next to us. So I'm going to go ahead and present some paintings, and the most famous wisteria painting, Claude Monet did this series of paintings of wisterias, and he's famous for the water lilies, obviously, but in his garden he had like a bunch of other flowers, and he used several species as subjects for his paintings. And one of the flowers he used was wisteria, and so he created different panels that he put together, and sort of like created this panoramic view of a wisteria plant. And this is one of the panels. if we didn't know that it was Claude Monet who painted this and that this is a wisteria plant, or the painting subject is a wisteria plant, we probably would never recognize or identify what this is, and specifically what plant it is. And this is something that it's marvelous because it speaks about the looseness of the brushstroke, the idea of creating texture. Sometimes it's so daunting, and it feels that it's something that we have to overcome at the beginning of the painting process, when in fact it's something that usually happens at the very end. So this will be a great opportunity to do a study on two major themes. A study, obviously, of color. Wisterias range from white to lavender to blue to lilac to pink, mauve, and everything in between. And so there's a huge range of hues depending on the plant. We're mostly familiar with the lilac or the lavender hues, so it will be a great study of this beautiful color. And at the same time, it will be an opportunity to experience or practice texture. Botanical elements, they usually put us or tend to put us in a corner because we find that we have to be very literal, and in order to create the illusion of texture, we have to paint a lot of detail. So this would be a great opportunity to forget about any architectural, landscape, or intent to replicate things photographically, and let things a little bit looser, practice different hues of color, and then create or expand a range of texture on our painting. So Claude Monet, I think this was at the very early 1900s, and it's possibly one of the most famous wisteria paintings, or paintings of wisteria plants. But we have a few more, and let me just kind of like show a couple more. So the wisteria plant was really admired and became the subject of a lot of art in Japan. This was, I don't have the year. I forgot to write the year here, but I will just see if I can find out really quickly, because there are several examples. Oh, yes, so I got it. This painting right here, it's titled Wisteria and Bee. You can see the little tiny bee right next or in between the wisteria and the branch. It was painted in 1930 by Ohara Kusan, and this was right after Monet's version. A different style, different approach, different technique, different composition, and different intent in representing the wisteria plant. So we're going to bring another example. This is by a contemporary artist. It's a watercolor, and he is an artist from Jamaica, Patrick Waldemar, Wisteria Courtyard, and this was painted last year. He's a contemporary artist, but this is an example as well in a different way, but an example of how to capture the illusion of color and texture without trying to be too literal or photographic. So compositionally elevated, typical wisteria flowers cascading down, and then anchored by the fountain as an architectural element to contrapose the organic and the human-made. So we just love the looseness of the brushstroke. We love the fact that the artist took advantage of dripping on the canvas to create this idea of cascading flowers, and also the range from blues to purples and everything in between, expanding beyond the containment of the actual flower. Something about expanding color beyond its constraints or limitations that we usually talk about. So really great examples on this contemporary approach to painting a wisteria plant. speaking of ranging wisteria colors from white to purple and blue, so this painting right here is by it's loading up, so I'm just gonna find it in 1 minute. And before I find the details, just wanted to mention that we added this painting to the portfolio of examples throughout art history, just because it's different, not only in color but in the way it's been painted. So with wisteria plants, there's something about the grainy aspect of the texture, the sort of like confetti-like arrangement of the different colors. We like this painting just because it's so soft and powdery and fluffy. It almost feels like there's a lens fogging our view, or in between our point of view and the actual subject. So yeah, there's also a contemporary, an architectural component that it's part of the composition. There's a window, and the whole composition is sort of like viewed and painted from outside instead of like through the window, which is something that feels more conventional. So it's a good example, if I can find the name later, but it's a good example stylistically of a different approach or take on painting a wisteria plant. You can appreciate here the structural element of the wisteria, how it has a vine quality, how when it blooms it creates these cascading grouped flowers and clusters of color, and leaving some spaces in between. It's uneven, it's not yeah, I do have the details, I don't know. It's uneven, it's not following a very rigid structure. So something about incorporating architecture in a vine that makes the vine even much more dramatic. When you bring some vertical and horizontal lines, when you bring some really straight continuous lines and you place them against a vine that grows so freely and with so much contortions, you accentuate this drama, and then you bring much more intensity, emotional intensity, to the composition. So I think, oh yeah, so Piet Becaert, he was a Belgian artist. This was titled Wisteria, and it was painted in 1981. It's funny because if you were to put all the paintings together, the examples of wisteria paintings that we brought, and you remove the labels and you don't put the dates chronologically, you will find it very hard to arrange them in order. There's something really beautiful about that. It makes all the work contemporary. So there is another example. Oh yeah, this is a good example in many ways because it's more focused on the actual botanical aspect or the leafy aspect of the wisteria. Wisteria Long Walk, Lecoin, Jersey, by Francis Ferdinand Maurice Cook. And this was, he lived between 1907 and 1978. We don't have a date of this painting, but there's also a very interesting stylistic approach that it's not focused on replicating, imitating, or becoming photographic. There's this idea of a path, so different from other examples that we proposed or that we put forward. This brings sort of like the idea of like a horizontal ground, and it creates a diagonal element that makes you go into this painting through that path. Not only that, but the way the texture is rendered, it follows a beautiful rhythmic approach in which the brush strokes and the elements become a little bit more sharp in quality or in edge quality and larger in size on the right side of the painting, and as they gradually move away from the point of view of the viewer, they become a little smaller, a little shorter, and a little less rigid in their edge quality. So what's also very beautiful is thinking of wisterias, we always think of color. We associate wisterias with a very strong purple color. And in fact, looking at a wisteria from live, the color is beautiful, but it's not super neon. So what we love about this painting is that the green, the foliage, takes much more importance and is much more the protagonist of this painting than the actual lilacs or violets of the blooming wisteria flower. So we also love the use of black in between. So it's something that it's not, we don't really associate with the wisteria, but the vine of the wisteria, the color of the vine of the wisteria, it's pretty, it could be very dark and really muted, very neutral. So a different example of a composition and a point of view. This is we brought this painting just because we love the painter Henri Le Sidonnaire. He was a painter from the turn of the century that wasn't much appreciated because people thought that his style was a little bit more commercial, but there's something so delicate and vulnerable and at the same time unapologetic about this completely utopian renderings of nature and light that we can't help but fall in love with his work. So he created this in we don't have the date, but it's titled Courtyard from a Window. He lived between 1862 and passed away in 1939, so really in the turn of the century. And it's important to point what a stylistic difference or departure he had with the rest of the people or painting scientists at the time that tried to break convention and do something completely different. He had his own visual language and treated subjects in a very specific way. A very high-key painting with lots of pastel and light notes typical of his work. No use of black, a very limited use of dark colors, even though the shadows are very colorful. There's not a dominance of shaded areas. Everything is high-key, pastel, soft, and extremely fragmented in the sense of the brushstrokes not really covering with solid, even blocking or blocking out areas. The wisteria is there. It's not the main element of or the main subject of the painting. It's sort of like the vine is that it's going separating the first floor and the second floor of that building. But we brought this as a different stylistic example and at the same time as a different I wanted to say a compositional example, looking at the plant or the main subject through a window, an open window. So, and finally, I think we have, do we have? No, we don't have any more examples. So we're just going to go back to the Monet, Claude Monet, and finish this presentation saying that what we're proposing to paint in the next 2 weeks is a wisteria plant. Just because wisteria season is right now, the wisteria plants are blooming only once a year, a short period of time, and there are many examples, but they're not everywhere or as ubiquitous as other plants. The biggest wisteria plant in the world is in Sierra Madre. This Sunday, the 27th, they're doing the Wisteria Festival, music, street food, and the only time of the year that the private property where the biggest wisteria in the world grows opens its door. So please take the opportunity. It's too short of a notice for us to kind of like organize something, but how funny that we are, or how interesting that we are sort of like celebrating the passing of time by concentrating on a specific blooming that happens right now, the wisteria. And by the way, speaking of colors, this is a color that we love. There are many names for this color. This violet, mauve, thistle purple, amethyst, heliotrope, heliotrope gray, because there's some of the wisteria, it's a little bit more desaturated, pale lavender, pale violet, light pastel purple, purple haze, plum blossom, mulberry purple, and also there's a color, snagglepuss. Snagglepuss is the Hanna-Barbera character, and when we read that there's a painting company that is labeling a shade of purple based on the character Snagglepuss, a mountain lion who is a shade of purple and speaks in very flamboyant Oscar Wilde kind of way, we just fell in love with the shade even more. So wisteria, by the way, before we conclude the session, symbolizes, let me just say, the wisteria flower has many different meanings to different people. The plant represents love, fertility, beauty, creativity, and long life. It can also symbolize things like patience and honor. The flower can live for more than 100 years. The one in Sierra Madre, by the way, I think it's more than 125 years. So the flower can live for more than 100 years, so it's often regarded as a symbol of everlasting wisdom. The long climbing vines are seen as constantly searching for new knowledge. Therefore, it can also be viewed as a symbol of longevity and endurance as well. So we thought this would be conceptually interesting to kind of like inspire us to do something that feels commercially so, or that feels so commercial, but yet it has so much symbolism, beautiful symbolism attached to it. Practitioners of Feng Shui hold the wisteria plant in special regard. It is used as a source of encouragement during moments of doubt. In Japan, wisteria plants are seen as being durable and resilient. We also found out that there's a very curious botanical phenomenon that happens. The Chinese wisteria plants, the vines grow counterclockwise, whereas the wisteria plants, the Japanese wisteria plants, the vines grow clockwise. We haven't verified this, but we just found someone online, an horticulturalist, I think I'm pronouncing this right, that mentioned this phenomenon. Also, for the Buddhist, the wisteria symbolizes, represents humility, and also it's a symbol of prayer. So there are a lot of apparently wisteria tattoos are more popular than we thought. It's a wisteria tattoo. It's often viewed as a symbol of prayer or thoughtful reverence. So getting a wisteria tattoo can show that your own consciousness is expanding. It can also be used to symbolize love or sensuality. So it's a very romantic tattoo to get. And we haven't searched for wisteria tattoos. But on a final note, a couple of things. We were just saying or trying to find references about wisteria used in contemporary time. And apparently, Kate Middleton and her sister, Pippa Middleton, at some point before they were married, I think they're both married, obviously Kate is married, they were labeled the Wisteria Sisters by the toxic, bullying, awful press in the UK. And they were named or nicknamed Wisteria Sisters because wisteria plants are pretty, they smell good, and they climb very fast. So they use this in a pejorative way to, just mention or refer to them as pretty social climbers. So there you go. I don't know. We don't have any comment about that. Just we thought it was interesting that someone in the press just mentioned the term wisteria, or applied the term wisteria as a nickname. Go figure. So we're gonna end this presentation. The video is gonna get reposted. We're gonna send an email shortly today, so you can register for tomorrow. 3 hours total, 2 hours painting, 1 feedback or critique. And now we're just gonna jump. We're gonna jump out of like Instagram. We're gonna jump into Clubhouse. We're gonna start talking about our new collective read, the 11 Associates of Alma Marceau. So this will be our first chat, and we encourage you to sort of like follow us, and we'll see you there. The chats have been really wonderful. We have made contact with the author and the publisher. They're very excited that we're using this book for our book club. So and we hope to invite them. We hope that they can join us in one of the chats that we're going to do weekly. So thank you so much. We're painting Wisterias. We hope you join us. Bye.